when you came to the President's Cup with Adam, there was all the talk about you maybe playing alongside Tiger for the first time, and everyone was there to get the photograph when you shook hands, and it was a pretty short moment. You've had some rounds since, but still no opportunity.
Oh, it's it's tough to get the opportunity. You know, Tiger's obviously, when he's at the course, he's got a lot of people around him. That's hard to actually get the moment to sit down and or get a few minutes to speak with him. But we've played with him a couple of times. But when you're playing on the course, it's not the right time to do it. But the time will come.
And hopefully in this next 18-month period, because after that you'll be back in New Zealand, won't you, racing the cars?
Yeah, well, we'll just see how it pans out by the end of the year. Yeah.
So many great moments though with Tiger. It'd be nice to bury the hatchet so you can look back on them fondly. What are some of the moments that you remember from that time?
Obviously the first major championship that I won with him at the PGA in Chicago at
Medina.
That was another case of a read that was quite important, if you like. He said the putt was such and such, and I changed his read because I remembered him putting that putt in practice. And of course, he went with the read and hold the putt. And that was an important moment in our career together. He got a nice big flag from the pro shop and autographed it, nice read on 17. And then having the chance to win the British Open at St Andrews, that's one thing I always really wanted to do, is win an Open Championship at St Andrews or be on the bag, caddying.
That's the flag that you've got framed, no doubt, yourself.
Yeah, well, I love that tournament. I love St Andrews and that. And Fanny Sunison has been one of my best friends as all the years I've been caddying. And when she won that tournament with Nick Faldo in 1990, standing up there behind the 18th green watching that, and I thought, geez, that'd be great. It's probably the best amphitheatre in golf to walk up the 18th to St Andrews, knowing that you're going to win the British Open. So we've had that chance twice. So that was probably a great moment. And then the win at Torrey Pines was probably equal to anything else as well.
Did you give him a read on the 72nd there as well?
Well, it wasn't a read, but the club selection on the third shot there was pretty important. So there's been some great moments. Obviously, when Tiger won the Masters to hold all 4 major championships in one time, which was being called the Tiger Slam, not the Grand Slam, but that was a big moment. So I've had lots of special memories with him as well.
And the one that gets played more than most, perhaps, is the chip in on 16 at Augusta with those wonderful contours that can make that happen. Talk us through that moment.
Well, it's a shot that you've never had before. I actually didn't even know what was over there, what the ground was like over there, what the contour was like and that. And it's very interesting because when he went over there, it took a long time to decide what sort of shot he was going to hit and everything, and he walked up on the green and he just said to me, Stevie, if I landed around this area, he pointed to a ball mark on the green, what do you think? And da-da-da-da. And of course, when he hit the shot, it landed exactly on that ball mark, which was uncanny, and of course the rest was history.
Oh, wow! In your life have you seen anything like that?
It was a great moment, and you celebrate with him with the high fives, and there's emotion, there's adrenaline running through Tiger. Now he's got Joe LaCava on the bag. Freddie Couples, former caddy, comes from a different sort of background. I mean, Freddie loves the relaxed lifestyle. You're an intense character. Do you think he's missing you? Because there's been no majors since you left.
Well, I mean, Tiger's obviously had some other reasons to deal with, but no, hey, look, I can't really answer that. I mean, Joey's a very good caddy, and everyone does the best they can, obviously, and I think the competition is far greater now. You look at all the first-time winners that are coming along, and some of the guys that you've expected to win majors, like Justin Rose, Adam Scott, guys that are coming along now and winning major championships. These are guys that you'd expect to win major championships, and more that's going to happen. So he has no intimidation factor anymore. And I always felt that was a big thing. Guys were quite intimidated by him, but there's no intimidation factor anymore, so that counts for a lot too.
But he loves his American sports, and getting back to my theory that I've got there about, you pumped him up on 16 at Augusta and he goes on to win, and the emotion running through his body when you're getting involved, natural sort of high-five moments, and he can build off that?
Well, I mean, that's a very good point. I've never really looked at it that way, and no one's ever brought that up to me, but, there could be something in that, yeah.
Do you think Adam can get in this year in terms of the #1 ranking? Can he play enough tournaments to knock him off?
Well, it's not really a matter of playing enough tournaments, it's about playing well in the tournaments you play. I mean, if Adam can win another major championship early on, if he could win the Masters or the US Open, and Tiger wasn't to win one of those two, I'm sure he'd flip-flop the 1 and 2. But, Tiger's always hard to pass at #1. He loves that #1 position, and, he plays well on a regular basis. So Adam's got to win probably a major championship for that to happen.
We've often heard about caddies, the phrase show up, keep up, shut up. I'd imagine you wouldn't agree with that phrase. There's a lot more to it.
Oh, I think that phrase came back from the way back in the early days when caddies were seen coming out of the trees and coming out of various nighttime establishments. But no, hey, look, caddies are a very big part of it. There's no two ways about that. I mean, it's a hard job to explain what it's involved, but you know, ask any pro what a caddy means to them and what they bring to the table, and you know, they'll explain the situation.
What do you think makes a great caddy?
Well, you know, there's several things, but like for me, always speak up. You know, never be afraid not to say what you're thinking. I mean, you're not always going to be right, but you know, if you put enough thought into everything, you know, like I mentioned before, by trying to always be one step ahead. You know, so he's thinking of the next hole, the next 3 holes, thinking of tomorrow. Always thinking ahead is, I feel, very important.
The communication, but also the psychology. Do you think a caddy needs to be part psychologist?
Well, absolutely. You know, it's a very important thing to be able to say, to know when to say something and not when to say something. You know when to talk, know not when to talk.
It's not the shot, because you don't get it all. It's not the shot.
I'm happy with that. I just wanted to get that feel.
You know when to pump them up and that sort of thing. Oh, absolutely. It's a big part of it for sure.
Because you've had great longevity with most of your bosses, whereas some other players are known for firing their caddies in quick-fire succession. So what do you think's been the main key towards you? Is it becoming a friend of the player as well?
I think for me it is, you know, I've always lived in New Zealand and I've travelled to and from New Zealand. So when I go away from the golf tour, I don't follow it one bit, which always interests people. I never watch it, I never follow it when I'm not working. So I'm always fresh. So I always come, you know, when I go away and come back, I'm always fresh and you know, eager to go and really looking forward to it. So that's what's always kept me vitalised, I guess.
And it all started with Peter Thomson. As a 13-year-old, you got on his bag at a New Zealand Open. Tell us about that and how that week went down, and did it make you think this is a career I'd like to have?
Absolutely how it happened. That was 1976 and I caddied for Peter at the New Zealand Open. It was at Hiratonga, Wellington Golf Club, which is near my home. And my dad arranged for me to caddy for him, and I'd always caddied at the local golf club as a kid and so forth. But when I caddied for him, there was no doubt in my mind after that 1 week that was what I wanted to do, be a golf caddy. And yeah, I remember that week for the rest of my life. And I always get a great thrill when I see Peter. I see him once or twice a year, and I got to spend a bit of time with him this year at the President's Cup. It's a huge thrill every time I see him, and it's someone I'll never forget, yeah. And you know, he was an awesome player as well.
Yeah, definitely 5 British Open wins, of course, but so many Australians along the journey as well. Ian Baker Finch for a little while there, and Greg Norman, of course. What was it like caddying for the Shark in his prime, really?
Yeah, oh, he was fantastic. I mean, I would never have got to where I was as a caddy without Greg. There's no two ways about it. He took me under his wing. I was only 15, 16 years old caddying for Greg, and he taught me the ropes, if you like, and that. And you know, obviously he was #1 player in the world, dynamic player with a lot of flair, and you know, he was a hell of a player. It was fantastic caddying for him. Yeah.
What happened at the end of your tenure with the Shark?
Well, I mean, I was only young, and I probably got too close with Greg. His family, they treated me like a family member, and that, and I guess Greg would get quite abusive on the course sometimes, and then I'd get abusive back. Well, when you're a caddy, you can't be, you know, yelling at the boss, not while you're playing anyway. So I got into a bit of a bad habit doing that, but that's just because you get too close. You know, when you don't look at one another as the boss and employer type relationship.
You mentioned getting too close. Do you think that helped you in the relationship with Tiger, keeping the golf course separate from personal life?
Oh yeah, it's definitely, like, from that point on, it's really helped my career. There's no two ways about it. You know, with Raymond Floyd, then Tiger, and then Adam, you learn where that balance is between a player and a friend and that sort of thing. So that was, you know, a valuable experience caddying for Greg in more ways than one.
Because when Tiger had his problems with the extramarital affairs and you were asked about it, and people said, how can he not know? But that was because of the separation you had.
Yeah, that was always a tough thing. I still think about that quite a bit. You know, so many people feel that I must have known something. Well, I mean, I didn't, because I didn't spend any time with Tiger off the golf course. I mean, I live in New Zealand, he lives in Florida. When I wasn't caddying for him, I was always in New Zealand. So, you know, if I had known something, I would have said something. That's the way, sort of person I am. I would have, you know, I don't sugarcoat things. I stand up and say what's right and what's wrong.
And you stood by him through that, and that's part of the reason you got so hurt.
Yeah, hey, well, that's another story for another day.
I'll give you a tricky one. Adam Scott and Greg Norman, who's the better driver?
Well, that's a tough comparison because there's no question that Greg was the best driver of the golf ball with a wooden driver, undoubtedly. So he played the majority of his golf with the wooden driver, and then Adam is playing with a metal wood driver. So, I'd say Adam's the best driver of the ball with the metal woods, and Greg was the best driver of the ball with a wooden club. So, to be fair, if I had to sway one way or the other, I'd probably go with Greg because the metal woods are far more forgiving than what the wooden clubs were.
So your final year full time, what's the #1 memory, do you think, in your whole career that you look back on?
#1 memory of the whole career? Well, that's a very good question, but when I caddied for Greg and he won the Australian Masters, I think it was 1984, at Huntingdale, is the memory that jumps out always at me because as a kid, and I'd played that course a couple of times in some junior tournaments, the opening tee shot at Huntingdale I always thought was one of the most intimidating tee shots there was. It used to be just gum trees and tea tree, and it was very, you're either in the fairway or you're looking for your ball sort of thing, and he used to stand up there and just hit that driver straight down the middle, the opening tee shot, and that was very intimidating to watch that off the first tee and that. But when he won the Masters there for the first time, well, not his first time, but when I was caddying for him, that jumps out, which is kind of strange because in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big tournament but it's always my fondest memory as having my first win at the Australian Masters with Greg. It was great fun, yeah.
Steve, thanks for joining us on the Golf Show, and good luck with Adam this year. Hopefully another major or two, and thanks for playing a part in the significant win at Augusta last year.
Well, hopefully we can sit down this time next year and talk about the double green jacket.
Big time. Thanks, mate.